Welcome to khetztutorials. This is a continuation of statistics, and I will now do an example to show the terms that I discussed in the previous video. If you haven't watched that, I'll just link the video on the top right. So let's get right into the problem. It says, Marianne is the sales manager for a publisher of school textbooks. Every month, her 16 staff members report on the number of schools they visited during the previous month. The results are given below. Now, as you saw from the discussion of the terms that we did talk about, it is useful to have the data in ordered form, or it is useful to have data basically organized in a sorted manner. And one way that you can use to sort your data, which I found quite useful, is if you start with your prefixes, so the prefix of your numbers, right? In this case, I know for sure that each of the numbers start with 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you basically just write your prefixes, which would be the number which occurs first in your number. Then after that, you just write your numbers down as you see them. So you write the remaining number. So for example, as you scan through the numbers, starting with the numbers that have 1 preceding them, then you have 12. You encounter 12 first, so you'd write that 12 over there. So that would be 2. So that is 1, 2 for 12. Going on like that as you scan through the list, then you next have 15. Next you have 15 again over there. Then you have 19 right next to it. And as you scan along, you'd see that you don't have any other number that starts with a 1. So we now move on to 2. Which numbers start with 2? So let's look at that. So we have 22, the very first number. Then as we scan along, we have 23 next. Then we have 26. Then we have 26 again. And that is all with regards to 2 numbers that start with 2. Now move on to 3, and we have 33. Moving on, we have another 33, and yet another one. Then we have 32. Then we have 35. Another 33, and another 35. And finally, we only have 40, which is associated with 4. Now, as you can see, this is not sorted, right? So the way that you'd sort it, since you've already dealt with the first one, so this is in order, 1, 2, 3, and 4. They are in order. So what you basically do, just write that down again. And now only focus on sorting these other ones. But instead of looking at the other ones, like you only look at one row at a time, because once you sort this, then everything else should just follow, just like that. So if you look at the numbers which follow 1, they're basically in sorted order. If you look at the numbers which follow 2, they are also in sorted order. But if you look at this, you have 2 after 3, so you just have to move that 2 to the first position as the smallest number, then following it with all your 3s that you have, right? All the 3s, we have 4 3s that follow over there. Then after that, so you basically covered all your 3s, which are 4 of them. Then you covered the 2 as well. Then you left with just 2 5s. So that is all with regards to that. And here you only have 0, which means you don't have to do much. Just write it as it is. Now you have all your numbers in sorted order. So now that everything is in sorted order, we can now talk about this piece over here and only focus on this, right? So let's take it up, just so we have it right next to our question. So we have everything in sorted order now. You can see that we have 12, we have 15, we have 15, we have 19, we have 22, 23, 26. So that is how you'd read your numbers now that they're in sorted order. So start with the number which comes before the line, then read the number that comes after the line. So that is one way that you can use to sort your numbers instead of basically writing them down and then tracking back to see if you have everything and stuff like that. So this is an easier way, I think, and I hope you find it useful. So the first question said, determine the range of the data. So before you determine something, you have to understand what it means, right? So the range would be the difference of the largest element and the smallest element, right? So A, the range, would be the max subtract the minimum. And the maximum element, you can just look at your sorted data. It would be the last element which occurs, and that would be 40. And the minimum element will be the very first element which occurs, and that would be 12, right? So all that you have to do is to subtract the 2, and you get your range. That will give you 28. So that is the range, and that is how you'd answer the first question. And the second question says determine the median. So the median is the middle value of sorted data. So now that our data is sorted, we can now just find the position of the median value, which you do using this formula. And n is the value or the number of elements that you have. So you can just count the second number, which is all the numbers after the line, to see how many elements you have, or you can count the elements from the raw data over here. Either method should work. Basically just count the number of elements that you have, and in this case we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15. We seem to have 15 elements over here. And that means that I basically missed something. Yes, I should have taken this 5 over there. So the 5 is there as well because we have 235. So the total should be 16, as I remember from working this out earlier. So the total is 16. So n, which is the total number of elements, is 16. Added to 1, then divide by 2 should give you 8.5. So where is the position 8.5? This is the position of the median. So you go to your numbers, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then come to this point. That should be 8.5. Between the 8th and the 9th element, that should be 8.5. Now, since we have an even number of elements, you expect to add 2 values and divide by 2. So the values are 26 and 32. So as you can see, the red line is in between 26 and 32. So you're basically going to add these two numbers, then divide by 2 to find your median. And if you do that, the value that you should expect to get is 29. So that is the answer that you expect to get. And that is our median. That is the second question. And remember that the median is also the same as Q2, but we'll get to that in just a bit. And that is the next question. It says, write down the 5-number summary of the data. So the 5-number summary, you have the minimum, you have Q1, you have Q2, Q3, and the maximum. So there are 5 elements. That is why it's called the 5-number summary. So the minimum is the smallest element, and we've already identified that from calculating the range, and that was 12. The maximum is the highest element, and that will be 40. And Q1, we've now divided our data set into 2. This red line over here now divides the data set into the lower half and the upper half. And now Q1 is the median of the lower half. So once again, we have to look at this data set, which is now its own data set, and find the median. If you look at that, we have 8 elements over there, which is also an even number. So expect to find a median somewhere there. You can also do this using the formula. To do that, you expect to find a median at position 4.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 elements, then somewhere in between the 4th and the 5th element. Then you now are going to say that your median value is 19, which is that one over there, plus 22, which is that one over there, then divide that by 2. So this computation there is just to find the position of your median, but this at the bottom is to find the exact answer of your median. And you have to do this whenever you have even numbers or an even number of elements. So this will be a Q1, 20.5. And Q2 is the median. So we already found that median and it was 29. You can do it again if you want. You just added 26 and 32 because that red line is where we expect to find our median. So if you add 26 and 32, then divide that by 2, then you should get your median value, right? So now that we have that, then we are basically almost done with this. We just have to find Q3, and Q3 would be the median of the upper half, and we do the exact same thing. It would be at the position 4.5, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. And if you divide, or if you do this to calculate your median, it's exactly 33. That'll be your Q3. So Q1 and Q3, you just have to find the median of the divided data set. So the median divides everything, and Q1 and Q3 divide either of the halves that you now form after making this initial division. So we now have the 5-number summary, and that was question C. Now D says calculate the interquartile range. That will be the range which we find IQR by subtracting Q1 from Q3. Now that we have these values, we just basically have to subtract them. So Q3 was 33 and Q1 was 20.5, and the result of that should be 12.5. And we now at the last question, which is E, and E says draw a box and whisker to represent the data. And the box and whisker basically represents the 5-number summary. So you can do some sort of number line to show where the data falls, and you start with your minimum somewhere there at 12, and somewhere at a distance at 12.5 you have your Q1, and somewhere a little further you have your 29, maybe there. If you draw this to scale, it should look something like this, I guess. Then you have 33 over there. This is your Q2, this is your Q3. Then you draw your whiskers, then your other element over this side, which is your max, that would be 40. So that is the box and whisker diagram, which basically summarizes the data. That is why I kept this, so that we can look at it while we sketch that. So if you draw this to scale, you should basically see how the data looks in terms of dispersion, in terms of the spread of the data, and how skewed the data is. I think I'll talk about skewed data in another video. But that is all that I had to talk about in this video. And I hope it was of value to you. I hope you did learn something, or it was good revision if you do know this stuff. And that is all. If you like the video, just give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.